Whether you're new to investing, you've definitely heard of stocks and bonds. But after doing a little more research in the personal finance and investing sector, you'll start hearing about index funds, mutual funds, and ETFs. You're probably seeing this video right now because you just Googled these phrases to see which one is ideal for you to invest in. So in this video, I'll offer you a clear overview of the differences among index funds, mutual funds, and ETFs, so you can decide which option is best for you and your interests. The easiest explanation I can provide for the resemblance between mutual funds, ETFs, and index funds is a group of people pooling their money to acquire a certain asset or collection of assets. This is comparable to an office pooling money to purchase a raffle ticket and dividing the winnings, or a family pooling money to buy a holiday villa or championship tickets to their favorite sports team, for example. As a result, mutual funds, index funds, and ETFs enable investors to purchase a basket of products and services such as bonds, stocks, and other securities. The most significant difference, though, is how these things are controlled. ETFs can be traded in the same way that stocks can. So in this case, ETFs are traded on an exchange that does not trade mutual funds. Unlike mutual funds, ETFs can be exchanged intraday or during normal market hours. Mutual funds are normally only exchanged just at the end of the day on the basis of their net asset value. But before we get too far into NAV, the net asset value, we'll return to it later. As a result, mutual funds are usually actively managed. ETFs are passive investments. So actively managed funds indicate that there is a fund manager and generally a team of analysts or individuals who make the majority of the decisions as to what these funds invest in. This implies they must be rewarded for their efforts. Therefore, mutual funds often have larger annual costs than ETFs. So under the expense ratio portion, ETFs will be lower, while mutual funds will be higher, and we'll get to those numbers in a moment. So as previously said, ETFs are often passively managed and are either on a broad market index or a particular set of investing criteria. Because most ETFs are passively managed, their expense ratios, or the amount of fees you pay per year to acquire these assets, can be extremely low, if not totally free with certain ETFs. So the typical cost ratio for actively managed mutual funds is between 0.5% and 1%. Some are substantially higher, reaching up to 2.5%, although seldom exceeding 2.5%. The average ratio for passive index funds is roughly 0.2%. However, some of them are 0% up to greater percentages. But in general, you're looking at 0.2%, which is a significant difference. So at the period of this recording, Vanguard's entire stock market ETF seems to have an expense ratio of under 0.03%. This implies that for every $10,000 invested, you will pay only $3 in fees per year. Analyze how the costs compare if another fund has an expense ratio of 0.75%. This may not sound like much, but after you achieve $1 million in that portfolio, those numbers convert into $300 per year with the 0.03 option and $7,500 per year with the 0.75% option. The transparency of mutual funds is fairly high, whereas it is normally lower due to how these things are controlled and the dollar amount required to be invested. With fractional shares, you can buy $1 worth of an ETF if you really want to. With mutual funds, there's usually a minimum amount to be eligible to invest in mutual funds, which is normally in the hundreds or thousands of dollars. So before things get any more complicated, let's take a look at each of these assets individually. We'll look through mutual funds, index funds, and exchange-traded funds or ETFs. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about investing. Let's return to the video. Let's go on to the next segment. What exactly is a mutual fund? The answer is found in the name of the mutual fund itself. Mutual funds acquire their name from the fact that they pool the funds of investors who mutually put their resources together. As indicated in the previous portion of this video, the aim of this money is to buy and sell assets. Whenever you invest in a mutual fund, you are not purchasing individual shares of certain companies such as Apple or Google. You are purchasing stock in the mutual fund company. Investors buy and sell mutual fund shares at a defined price, known as the net asset value, or NAV. For a very simple description of the net asset value, it is just the mutual fund version that shows a fund's per share market value, comparable to a stock share price. Thus, whenever you see Google trading at $1,000, that is the NAV of a mutual fund. As a result, the net asset value is computed by dividing the total value of a fund's cash and securities in its portfolio minus the amount of liabilities by the number of shares outstanding. Well, here's a simple example. We own $45 million in investments under management and $5 million in cash, for a total of $50 million. The fund has liabilities of $10 million for a total value of $40 million. So here is a little question for the viewers. What is the average price per share if the fund has 5 million shares outstanding? So suppose we assume we have 40 million. Assets minus liabilities divided by 10 million equals $8 per share. Okay, 40 million divided by 5 million equals $8 per share. Mutual funds exist in a variety of forms, including fixed income, index balance, money market, international specialty funds, and a lot more out there. The major advantage of mutual funds is that they offer broad diversification, competent management, and a variety to pick from, as well as a low barrier to entry in terms of minimum investment amount, which may be as small as $1,000. The main downsides of mutual funds include high fees, lack of FDIC coverage in most situations, and the difficulty in comparing as you would with stocks. Mutual funds, like stocks and ETFs, don't trade on exchanges. Now let's move on to ETFs. What exactly is an ETF? ETF is short for Exchange Traded Fund. This is a type of investment or security that replicates a certain index sector or style of investment. Consider an ETF to be a basket of assets. As in a stock portfolio, assume you're purchasing an ETF to trade stocks. One share of an ETF includes hundreds of various assets, such as publicly listed companies, implying that you own hundreds or even thousands of stocks through your ETF. So let's utilize VTI as an example once more. As previously stated, VTI is an ETF that tries to imitate the performance of the US Total Market Index. It is passively managed and comprises 4,100 different companies with an expense ratio of only 0.03%. An ETF is an exchange-traded fund since it is traded on an exchange, similar to stocks, and it trades intraday, as described earlier. One of the advantages of holding an ETF is that they are more liquid than mutual funds, making it easier to purchase and sell them at any time. Remember that mutual funds can only be exchanged once every day at the end of the day, but ETFs can be traded throughout regular market hours. There are several forms of ETFs, such as bond ETFs, stock ETFs, commodity ETFs, currency ETFs, and inverse ETFs. I'm not going to go into great detail about each of them since some of them are plain common sense based on their names. But if you want to dive deeper, there's plenty of articles available on the internet. The most significant benefits of ETFs are that you have access to many different companies across many industries, that you have low cost ratios, that you have a lot of diversity, and that you also have sector-specific methods to invest, provided that's what you're looking for. So since we're talking about sector-specific strategies to invest, let's move on to index funds. So what exactly are index funds? Index funds are just a subset of mutual funds and/or exchange-traded funds. An index fund is a stock or bond portfolio intended to replicate the performance of a certain market index. So for example, assuming you wanted to replicate the S&P 500, you could use an index fund named SPY. Index funds like exchange-traded funds have lower expense ratios as well as fees than actively managed funds. Instead of actively choosing companies and attempting to timing the market, a portfolio manager will design a portfolio that attempts to match a specific index and does so passively by establishing an index fund. Because index fund managers are just repeating the performance of a benchmark index, they do not require the assistance of research analysts and other individuals who aid in the company selection process, as previously stated. There is no demand for 5-figure year-end bonuses for analysts who spend 80+ hours a week, have really no social life, and considering resigning while experiencing an existential crisis about why they decided to work in finance in the first place. But then, they got their sport cars and everything was okay again. For example, an index fund following the Dow Jones, which is an index itself, may invest in all of the 30 companies that comprise the index in order to replicate its outcomes. So index funds offer very low risk through diversification, similar to ETFs, low cost ratios, great long-term returns that have been recorded, documented, and confirmed, and that they're perfect for passive investors. Index funds have certain drawbacks, including the fact that they are prone to market collapses, lack of a human aspect, and their gains are confined to the exact index that they are attempting to copy or recreate. I will argue that for most passive investors, index funds or ETFs are about all you need. There are those that promote mutual funds. However, when it comes to outcomes and historical performance, there are no signs of future results. So know that you'll be paying greater fees for actively managed funds. Yet at the end of the day, many people will be well served with simply a decent index fund or ETF. Some people like to shift sectors. Other people want to shift into commodities, particularly when inflation is high. I will add that similar to the example I provided with VTI, the whole stock market index fund, there is a mutual fund counterpart, VTSAX, or an index fund like, but at the end of the day, the expense ratio of all these ETFs is just impossible to surpass. I may have skipped over it earlier in the video, but as your portfolio expands over 20, 40, 50 years and you reach $1 million, particularly with inflation, these fees will eat you alive, which is why low expense ratios have a huge impact later on. Hope you have learned something from this video. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the like button and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for you to be updated on our latest videos. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Want to learn more and be more financially literate? Click on the next videos we have in our channel, showing on the screen right now.